at the forefront of politics.
Our enemy is Trump. He is the enemy. We got to unite. If we're not a united party, we lose to Trump.
On the front lines of activism.
There's certain fights, if we don't engage, they win. This is a fundamental question of who we are.
And delivering your daily dose of comedy.
Donald Trump, when he had his physical, they had his blood pressure, and mine is higher than his. Oh. And the irony is mine is higher because of him.
From the blue wave.
We flipped. Enough seats to take control of the House. We control the House.
To 2020 and beyond. This is the Dean Obeidallah Show on Sirius XM Progress, Channel 127.
And welcome to the show, brothers and sisters. Friday, January 10th. I'm Dean Obeidallah, as always, here to be your MBFF. I'll be there all weekend for you. Will you be there for me? I am there for you on Twitter at Dean Obeidallah, or drop me an email, questions, comments, suggestions, dean@deanofradio.com. That's DEAN at deanofradio.com. So, Friday, January 10th, a lot to cover. And from news such as Nancy Pelosi giving the articles of impeachment, apparently saying she's going to give them next week. That's a suggestion. But what I'm really going to focus on the top is Donald Trump's lying about the economy, which is getting almost no coverage in the media. We got a jobs report today, which we have to talk about, which furthers the position that I've been articulating on this show that the economy is slowing and slowing and slowing. Trump keeps saying it's the best ever. And the media goes, oh, I guess it is. And they're not digging down into what's really going on. We'll get into that. Plus, Trump and Pompeo's lies over the last 2 days on the reason we, the United States of America, killed a state actor, someone who's involved in a state government in Iran. And we found out about another attack that happened in Yemen the same night, apparently, and no one told us. But first of all, I want to talk about the economy. And I think this is so important because this is the issue for the Democrats. And there's everything about Trump and his sexism and bigotry and racism and his character and his lack of fitness to be president. That's baked in. The polls are the polls right now. And if you're like the poll numbers show and you don't like Trump and you strongly disapprove, I don't think you're going to change. If you strongly approve, I don't think you're going to change either. But the ones in the middle, who, while I wish they were disgusted by everything else about Trump, might be happy about the economy. And the longer the Democrats are silent on that issue, then there's only one side to discussion. And that's Donald Trump saying, like today and last night, it's the greatest economy ever. Well, today was a new jobs report. Comes out usually the first Friday of every month, but it came out because of the holiday week today for December. What did it say? It missed big time on two big key indicators. And the overall jobs created in 2019 were not good. Are you seeing that anywhere in the media? I'm not seeing any of that. So let me tell you, except if you watch CNBC, of course, it's sort of there. And Fox Business is spinning like Trump's the greatest economy in the world. The numbers, and these are not even subjective. These are objective numbers from the Trump administration I'm using. I'm not adding anything to them. These are the exact numbers. Today was a jobs report for December. Last month, in November, the economy created 250,000 jobs. Trump was so happy. 250,000 jobs. This month, economists expected, in the report that came out today, they expected 160,000 jobs to be created. In reality, it was 145,000 jobs. Way off 256. But let me give you a little contrast. Last December, how many jobs were created? 312,000. This December, last month, 145,000. 50% less. 50% less. And there's nothing in the media about this. This was below the expectations. And overall, the number of jobs created in 2019, 2.1 million. So you might ask, well, where is that in context to other years? It is the lowest since 2011, folks. That is the lowest job creation since 2011, 2.1 million, the worst in 8 years. Do you see any headline in the media going, jobs in 2019, the worst creation in 8 years? No, I don't see it anywhere. I don't know why the media won't cover the economy. I don't mean nonstop, but at least some headline there. And if you're Trump or his minions, they'll lie to you and go, oh, well, the reason jobs were not created as much this year is because everybody's working. So you can't create jobs if everybody's working. Well, that's a lie. And how do I know that? There's a number. It's called the labor participation rate. That's the percentage of Americans who are working or currently looking for work. When Trump took office, it was 62.8%. 62.8%. Well, if everyone's working, that number you might say, well, it's going to be 70%, right? Or 75% of Americans are either working or looking for a job, right? Something like that. No, he took office 62.8%. Where are we now? 63.2%. A half a point higher. So in 3 years, only a half a percentage more of Americans who didn't have a job before now have a job. This is all smoke and mirrors, this economy. And here's the worst part. While the wealthy get wealthier, and that is documented, and Donald Trump has promised wage growth. He promised with the tax cut for the wealthy, and corporations literally promised $4,000 a household. Well, what are we seeing in wage growth? They were expecting 3.1%. What was it? Came out today? 2.9%. 2.9% wage growth. And to give you an idea of the real number here, inflation is 1.9%. Meaning the net wage growth of the average worker, and these are all the administration's numbers I'm using, the average worker saw a 1% wage increase. I don't know about you. I don't know where this 1.9% inflation is coming because my healthcare costs went up more than 1.9%. My rent went up more than 1.9%. The cost of milk in the store down the street from me went up more than 1.9%. Unless you're making 3.5%, 4% more than last year, you are breaking even. If you're making anything less than that, you're losing money. And this is the struggle. And it's remarkable that it's not talked about more. And Donald Trump today touting stock market all-time high. His minions, his supporters on Twitter, stock market all-time high. It did hit an all-time high for a short time, the Dow. There's no disputing that. It actually did. Here's the reality. Slightly over 50% of Americans own stocks or mutual funds tied to the stock market. That's it. About 52, 53% of Americans. Of that, who do you think owns 84% of all stocks, folks? 84% of all stocks are owned by the top 10% of Americans. So the wealthy have gotten wealthier. There's no doubt about that. This is quantified by the stock market. The top 10% own 84% of the stocks, meaning the rest own 16%. Again, this is this trickle-down economy where Donald Trump and his country club buddies that he plays golf with are doing better, and they are doing better. He did that with a tax cut for the wealthy and corporations, and the corporations did not give the wage increase to workers. They gave them for stock buybacks and for corporate compensation. That's what they did it with. So the average worker is not seeing any benefit. And why Trump keeps saying all the time the economy is so great, it's so great all the time, I honestly think it's the silenced critics who are not doing well in this economy. So you feel self-conscious. You're like, well, everyone's doing great. It must be me. I'm not doing well. It must be my fault. Nothing structural in our economy. No, it's not your fault. This is not as good as it can get. It can get far better because it was better under Obama. There was more job growth. There was more wage growth. That is so important. There was also a lot higher percentage of labor participation in the last 10 years than there is now. And Trump will just use the stock market, which is an indicator of the wealthy getting wealthier, and go, everything's great. A Democratic president, we had Tom Steyer on last night, talked about, and I asked him point blank, how are you going to raise wages? Because that's, to me, the key thing. You might have a job and you don't have a raise. This is really important. He went through his list. When Senator Sanders was on, the same thing. If we get to talk to Liz Warren or other 2020 candidates, I will ask them that. To me, that's such an important question. And the answer from Tom Steyer and others is, first, raise the national minimum wage. That drives up everyone's wages. Then it's about closing the income inequality gap so that the wealthy pay their fair share, and you can use the extra revenue to help people in lower and middle class they want to go to school, which is tied, the more education is tied to generally higher income, requiring through the Department of Labor overtime mandated by bigger corporations, and there's ways of doing it. So you've got the economy, and I wanted to touch on that because it's getting zero press today. No, we're not on the edge of recession, except for the manufacturing sector is technically in a recession. Again today, a contraction in jobs in that area, below zero. I mean, we're like loss of jobs in manufacturing. In retail, it was pretty good, and in healthcare, it was pretty good growth. Overall, though, the trend line is downwards. Donald Trump is not doing well as Donald Trump a year ago. And I wish they would talk about this because there's a bubble, and I can see it, and the numbers support it, And at some point, people are like, wow, I didn't see that coming. It's here. And the media, you got to start reporting the economy is slowing. And the Democrats have to address this over and over and over again, that the economy is not as good as it can get. If you're not doing well, it's not your fault. We can make the system better for you. And they have to show how, with policies, not just words. So let's talk about the second thing. The lies around the Iran strike just don't end. If Donald Trump was straightforward and honest about this and just said, hey, I killed the guy because I thought it would help my re-election campaign, at least he would have been honest about it. I'm like, well, that's a violation of the Constitution and the War Powers Act, but at least you're being honest. They were not honest about it. It's lie, 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 lie. And since it's Friday, we will get into this topic through comedy. Colbert last night had 2 great jokes on the Intel briefings. And this is why Colbert is so good. He's informing people of the facts. If you don't watch it, there's actually news clips behind him, so it's all based in reality, and then gives us some jokes. So here's first Colbert last night on the Intel briefing that went to the senators. Clip number 1, please, Nina.
Mike Lee. Senator Lee described the meeting where the administration was supposed to explain the justification for the attack like this.
Probably the worst briefing I've seen, at least on a military issue, in the 9 years I've served in the United States Senate. They kept telling us that there would have been an imminent attack had they not taken this strike on Friday. But then when we would ask them, what was the nature of that attack? When and where would it have occurred? By whom would it have been carried out? They refused to answer the question.
And that is the only reason for the meeting. That's like a doctor saying, yeah, we have the results of your MRI, but I refuse to show them to you. So what do you want to talk about? Hey, have you finished binging The Witcher on Netflix yet? If not, I'd get to that in the next couple of weeks if I were you.
And then Colbert makes a great point why we need, as the American public, to know the facts before any president, Democrat or Republican, commits our troops to military action and takes us to the edge of war. And here's Colbert, and he plays a clip of Mike Lee. And listen to Mike Lee again. Mike Lee's words just a second ago were so important. We're going to get back to them in a serious context in a second to show you they undermine what Pompeo and Trump have been saying. Mike Lee made it very clear. I asked who and what were the targets, and they told me we'll get back to you. Well, here's Colbert, though, a warning for all of us. Clip number 2.
Now, Lee wrapped up his criticism of the briefing by telling us how he really felt.
I find this insulting and demeaning, not personally, but to the office that each of the 100 senators in this building happens to hold. I find it insulting and I find it demeaning to the Constitution of the United States.
Damn right, Mike. I am going to right now, yes. This is insulting, not just to Congress. This is insulting to the American people. Has everyone already forgotten what happens when we don't ask for concrete evidence justifying a military attack against a Middle Eastern country whose name begins with Ira? Obviously, we know what that was last time.
Obviously, the war in Iraq was a big, fat mistake.
Thank you, more recent mistake. Now, here's the difference.
And that's why, because Americans died and civilians died, and it cost us trillions of dollars, based on a lie, to go to the war in Iraq. And we cannot do Iraq 2, 2.0, brought to you by the same producers who brought you the Iraq War. The neocons, they're back. They've been out of work for a while, but now John Bolton and his buddies are all going to team up again. And even on the outside, Ari Fleischer and others cheerleading a war in Iran. Dangerous people. Now, here's the lies. Here's what happened. Today was a press conference that could have not gone worse for Mike Pompeo and Steve Mnuchin, but really Mike Pompeo was there. And when you watch this press conference, and we're going to play some clips, you understand why the Trump administration's no longer doing press daily briefings, because this would be happening every day. The media would be challenging on camera Trump officials about lies, about Trump's lies, about Trump's attacks on the media and on the intelligence agencies. So this one, horrible for Pompeo. But first, I've got to remind you of something. To give you the arc of Mike Pompeo's lies. And of course, he's doing this in the name of Trump. Here was Mike Pompeo last Friday, a week ago in the morning, first interview after the strike, goes on CNN with John Berman and asked point blank, listen very carefully, here is Mike Pompeo last Friday, first time in the media, telling us why we had to kill essentially the second most powerful man in Iran who is part of their military and their government. Here's clip number 3, please.
You put out a statement a short time ago that says the decision to eliminate General Soleimani was in response to imminent threats to American lives. What was the nature of those imminent threats?
John, I can't talk too much about the nature of the threats, but the American people should know that President Trump's decision to remove Qasem Soleimani from the battlefield saved American lives. There's no doubt about that. He was actively plotting in the region to take actions, a big action as he described it, that would have put dozens, if not hundreds, of American lives at risk. We know it was imminent. This was an intelligence-based assessment that drove our decision-making process. And last night was the time that we needed to strike to make sure that this imminent attack that he was working actively was disrupted.
A specific target overseas?
I'm not going to say anything more about the nature of the attack, but know that this was not just in Iraq, it was throughout the region.
Imminent attack. You heard Mike Pompeo. In fact, John Berman then presses him even more. Definitely an imminent attack. And we know what the word imminent means, like coming up in the next day or two, maybe the next hour. Clip number 4, Berman presses him.
Will the administration be releasing details of the intelligence which did lead to the raid, the imminent threat, over the next few days?
John, we'll do our best to release everything that we know that's appropriate, that we can, that doesn't put anyone at risk. We'll do our best. We want the world to understand that there was, in fact, an imminent attack taking place. The American people should know that this was an intelligence-based assessment that drove this.
Imminent attack. You heard it over and over. Imminent attack. We all understand imminent. Here's Mike Pompeo last night on Fox News. Things are changed. Clip number 5.
There is no doubt that there were a series of imminent attacks that were being plotted by Qasem Soleimani. We don't know precisely when, and we don't know precisely where, but it was real.
What? Just a week ago, you said a whole bunch of places. Imminent. Now, play that again, Nina. We got to hear this again.
There is no doubt that there were a series of imminent attacks that were being plotted by Qasem Soleimani. We don't know precisely when, and we don't know precisely where, but it was real.
It's imminent, but we don't know where, and we don't know when. If you don't know the when, it can't be imminent, right? So it's gone. There's no more imminent attack. Mike Pompeo admitted that last night. So they've been lying for a week. There's no imminent attack whatsoever, folks. Now, Soleimani was a bad guy, and Trump, in his own mental sort of machination, said, hey, killing this guy, and the reports today, he killed the guy to make some GOP senators happy so they'd vote against removing him for the impeachment. But in Trump's big thinking, his brain, his big head, he's like, this will help me. I'll look like a tough guy, right? And then today's the press conference, and I got to play these clips. And Pompeo is grilled. First thing he's grilled on, going back to that comment from the night before on Fox News, like, you said it was imminent. Then you said, I don't know when it's going to happen. How could it be imminent? Here's clip number 6. This happened just hours ago.
The administration said this strike was done based on an imminent threat. But this morning, you said we didn't know precisely when and we didn't know precisely where. That's not the definition of imminent. The president has also suggested that there was some sort of attack being planned against an embassy, perhaps several embassies. Can you clarify? Did you have specific information about an imminent threat, and did it have anything to do with our embassies?
We had specific information on an imminent threat, and those threat stream included attacks on U.S. embassies. Period. Full stop.
So you were mistaken when you said you didn't know precisely when and you didn't know precisely where.
No, completely true. Those are completely consistent thoughts. I don't know exactly which minute. We don't know exactly which day it would have been executed, but it was very clear. Qasem Soleimani himself was plotting a broad, large-scale attack against American interests, and those attacks were imminent.
Against an embassy.
Against American facilities, including American embassies, military bases, American facilities throughout the region.
So the list is getting longer. They're spinning the web. You can hear it. It went from last Friday, very clear, imminent attack. Didn't mention embassies. Could have mentioned embassies. Why wouldn't you? But he said, imminent attack, we'll give you evidence later. Yesterday, he goes, imminent attack, we don't know where, we don't know when. So it's not imminent. We understand that. We're all intelligent adults. Just apply common sense. You can Google the word imminent if you want. You will see that imminent does not mean, I don't know when or where. You know exactly when. That's imminent. So he's getting slammed on this. And then he's asked about, and you heard Mike Lee, the senator, during the Colbert comedic clip saying, I asked who was threatened and who was attacked, and they wouldn't tell me. Now, Pompeo today is saying, we told the senators the embassies. And listen to the reporter saying, but the senators said you didn't. Are the senators lying? What a great question. This is why we need daily briefings. So let's hear clip number 7.
Here today at the podium, you said that the imminent threat was a threat to U.S. embassies. You didn't know precisely when or where. Last night, the president said it was a threat to embassies, including to our Baghdad embassy. Why can you say that here, and the president could say it at a rally in Toledo, but no one said it to lawmakers behind closed doors in a classified setting, as multiple senators have since said?
We did.
You said so. The senators are lying
We
when they say that
we told them about the imminent
was a
threat. All of the intelligence that we've briefed, that you've heard today, I assure you, in an unclassified setting, we provide in the classified setting as well.
To be clear, you told them that embassies were to be targeted. That was the imminent threat.
I'm not going to talk about the details of what we shared in the classified setting, but make no mistake about it. Those leaders, those members of Congress who want to go access this same intelligence can see that very same intelligence that will reflect what I described to you and what the president said last night as well.
So Mike Lee, a Republican, said, we were not told any of the targets. We asked about it. But now Mike Pompeo's like, we did brief them. The lies from this administration don't end. And then I love this question. A reporter asked Mike Pompeo, finally has a chance to ask someone in the administration to their face, Trump slammed the intel community for the last 3 years. Why should we believe them now? And I think this is fabulous. And listen to Pompeo, just dance and dance and dance. Clip number 8, please.
6 months ago, Secretary Pompeo, the president said that U.S. intelligence agencies had been running amok. He spent most of the past 3 years he's been in office denigrating and attacking the intelligence community and disputing findings, whether it's on Russia or North Korea, or really any area that contradicts things that he has said publicly. Why then should Americans suddenly believe your assertions that you had good intelligence on this when the head of the executive branch has been casting aspersions on the intelligence community for most of his time in office?
Look, I served as the CIA director for the first year and a half of this administration. I watched the president rely on the work that the intelligence community did for the entire time I served as the head of the Central Intelligence Agency. I watched him rely on the capable men and women who are delivering exquisite information to the executive branch. I watched the president have confidence in that information. We all challenge their work. We have to make sure we get it right. The intelligence community is not flawless. We get it wrong. In this case, the intelligence community got it fundamentally right.
It's remarkable to hear these lies spun on national TV. Trust the intelligence community when it helps Trump, but when they say anything critical of Trump, they're the deep state. This is the bed Donald Trump has made. And if you thought that press conference couldn't get any worse for Pompeo and the Trump administration, it did. And the reason this imminent threat is so important is that a president in America is not a king. As Trump wants to be a king, I get that. He's not a king. He's the commander-in-chief, but the ability to declare war is with Congress. So it's a shared power. The only exceptions in the War Powers Act passed in 1973 for a president to just do whatever he wants in terms of military is imminent a threat. There's an imminent threat there. That's why everyone keeps bringing up imminent threat, imminent threat. So there's no imminent threat. Secondly, if there is an imminent threat, the only way it could be using military is if you don't get rid of that threat, people are going to die. Right? That makes sense. If it's only an imminent threat if the person you're going to kill using our government apparatus, a guy in another government, and that's what this guy was, killing him's got to save lives. That's why you kill him. Well, Pompeo's asked that. Nope. It's not going to save any lives, folks. This is remarkable stuff. Clip number 9.
Is that threat now gone with Soleimani gone?
Threats are never gone. Right? It's always a lot of danger in the world. Always a lot of danger in the world throughout the region. Nobody believed that a single mission in any respect took down the risk of terror. Terror from Al-Qaeda, terror from ISIS, terror from Al-Shabaab.
No single mission was going to end the threat of terror. No single mission was going to erase this threat. So this is where it comes down to. If you're a commander-in-chief, you're going to use our military, a sane person who's concerned about repercussions would say, if I'm going to kill someone who's involved in another government, not a random terrorist who lives in a cell, in some kind of hut or in a cave with a small group of people, but if I'm going to kill someone in a government, it sends a message. The United States of America is assassinating people, parts of other governments. We're only going to do that if there's an imminent threat. And by killing that person, you eliminate that imminent threat. Pompeo just said, no, it doesn't eliminate the threat by killing Soleimani. So why did we kill the Iranian general? Well, it became clear last night, and a caller from LA brought it up that I think Trump did this just to give himself something to brag about at rallies. I think it was Sam, if I remember correctly, his name. Well, he was right. What did Trump do last night at his rally? All this was, it did not matter if it was in violation of the Constitution or the War Power Acts. It did not matter, there was no imminent threat. That killing him was not going to save any lives, because that's what Pompeo is saying, it's not. All it did was give Donald Trump an applause line at his rallies. That's why he killed him. That's why Donald Trump picked the most extreme option given to him by the military and a chance to attack Democrats. And here is Donald Trump last night doing that. Clip 10.
Soleimani was actively planning new attacks, and he was looking very seriously at our embassies, and not just the embassy in Baghdad. But we stopped him, and we stopped him quickly, and we stopped him cold. He was a bad guy. He was a bloodthirsty terror, and he's no longer a terror. He's dead. And yet now I see the radical left Democrats have expressed outrage over the termination of this horrible terrorist.
When you peel away everything, there was not an imminent threat. We know that clearly now. Senators or even Republicans were not briefed on that. Killing Soleimani was not going to stop any kind of threat. That's the words of Pompeo today. All this was done. The reason Soleimani was killed was because Donald Trump couldn't get help from the Ukraine to win re-election. So he had to do something else bigger. And that is kill Soleimani. He knew Democrats would call out his violation of the Constitution and use that at rally after rally to get his base going. That's all this was done for. And the problem is American lives were at risk. He put American lives in harm's way simply to help his re-election campaign. That's all this was. It is as simple as that. And I knew on last Friday when I was saying, I think maybe he did this for a distraction from impeachment. But even I felt like I'm thinking too small. That's too simplistic because impeachment's not really going to go away. The big picture was Donald Trump killed the second most powerful man in Iran because he believed it was going to help his re-election campaign. That's all it is. And tonight we're hearing rumors in the reports in the media, Trump's going to expand the Muslim ban. This is all just red meat for the base. Building the wall, everything he did in 2016, he'll do again, but now with the power of government behind it. Using our military to help his re-election. And in fact, we found out a short time ago, we just found this out, on the same night he killed Soleimani, he authorized a strike in Yemen of another Iranian commander, which was unsuccessful. We didn't know that till now. So Trump's out there taking victory laps. We don't even know there's a failed mission in Yemen. They kept that from the American people. That's not what the President of the United States does. That's what a dictator does. So King Trump is using our government to help his re-election, putting Americans in harm's way. The draft dodger that Donald Trump is, and I say that because if he had served in military, I don't think he would ever whimsically put Americans in harm's way. But he doesn't, because neither him nor anyone in his family has to serve or will serve. That is the privilege of the wealth, and that is the privilege of power in this country. Trump's not the only one, not the only family where wealthy people can avoid service. He did it when there was a draft. Now in volunteering, as I went through the other day, demographically, only about 17% of our military is made up of people who are in families of over $80,000 a year. The rest are middle class and lower class fighting our battles, the volunteer army. They're going in there to defend our nation. That's what they're about. This is where we are. We have a law. We don't have an administration. We have a lawless regime. And I've said this over and over on this show and others as well. Donald Trump will do anything to get reelected. Anything. And we cannot even predict with any confidence the things he is capable of because we're not capable of thinking that way. We are not capable of divorcing any sense of decency and compassion and throwing out right and wrong. Only a sociopath can do that. And that's what Donald Trump is. He's a sociopath. And I mean that in a psychological sense. If someone doesn't know the difference between right and wrong, everything's about themselves, they're selfish and narcissistic to the point of actually having a mental condition. And that's what Trump has. This is where we are. I have no idea between now and November 3rd what he'll do to stay in power. But he will kill people. He will allow Americans to get killed for him. We know that. No one can deny that. And the only hope we have is collectively filling in the gaps our media doesn't cover on issues like what's going on in Iran and why he really did this, and the economy. Being the ones going out there and calling out, because we cannot depend on a handful of cable news outlets or a few shows that are really great, like Joy Reid's show, which I'm going to be on Sunday, unless I get bumped for something horrible Trump does between now and then. There's some great hosts on some channels. There really are. But overwhelmingly, the bias of this media, for-profit media, is to see Donald Trump in office for 4 more years. That's the truth. That is the blunt truth. That's the reality of this. We're going to be the ones that are going to have to carry this burden and fight this out. So after all this is all done, after a week, it is now completely clear. The reason Donald Trump killed Soleimani, the Iranian general, was for what happened at the rally last night. And a new applause line. He'll go around the country for the next 9 months using that and attacking Democrats as somehow being soft on terrorism, that we defend terrorists, that's all we care about. At some point, he'll invoke Congressman Omar again and Tlaib, no doubt. He'll expand a Muslim ban to other countries. Don't forget, 65% of GOP voters 2016 supported a total and complete ban on all Muslims. So adding a few more to his list, it's just a little bit more red meat. All I know is Donald Trump will replay the 2016 playbook, but elevate it now using the government and the power of government with policy. So we know he's going to demonize Latino immigrants even more. We'll know he'll demonize Muslims, but he'll do it more selectively because he needs Saudi Arabia, he needs Turkey, he needs Egypt. So he can't do the total Muslim ban. He'll just demonization here and there. That's the way he'll do it. Everything else from 2016, just go back and we'll look at it. He'll retweet more white supremacists. He'll refuse to denounce white supremacists when asked, just like he refused to denounce David Duke during the campaign when asked point blank by Jake Tapper in February of 2016. All of that and worse. That's what we're in for. Strap in. But the good thing is we have a sense of how bad this could be, and we're in this together. And I always say I don't say these things to scare. I say these to prepare. We have to be ready. We have to stand with each other's communities because he's coming for us. He's coming for the LGBT community. He already did with his the ban on transgender Americans in the military, sending a message that if you're transgender American, that you're so inherently bad, we have to keep you out of our military. Latino immigrants, thugs, criminals, we know the list. African Americans, Black Americans, calling them everything from low IQ to dumb to living in places where even human beings wouldn't live, where rats run everything. That's what he said about Elijah Cummings' district, and he's talked about Maxine Waters and others. And Muslims, my community, we're pretty thick-skinned. He'll come after us. And even yesterday, he was tweeting using anti-Semitic tropes. Even though we've had a spat of anti-Semitic hate crimes, Donald Trump calling Adam Schiff Shifty Schiff. And he knows, and we know, that is an anti-Semitic trope to call someone Jewish shifty. Plays on decades-old anti-Semitism of how Jews are not trusted. He knows that, and he doesn't care. He did it yesterday, and our media doesn't even call it out anymore. It's going to be a rough ride between now and November 3rd, 2020. So let's take a break. At the top of the hour, you're my guest now. Top of the hour, Angela Corazon from Media Matters, who is a media expert. You see him all the time on MS and CNN. We're going to talk about the media and his concern as well as ours that the media wants Trump to win re-election. And I don't mean every part of the media. I mean the corporate executives, the ones whose bonuses are tied to stock prices. Getting Donald Trump re-elected is going to help them. That's the truth. This is not partisan. If someone on the right was here, they would agree with me the same way. That's the truth. What are we going to do about that? And that and more. We'll be right back. Then you're my guest, 866-997-4748. Give me a call. I'd love to hear from you.
Dean Obeidallah Show on Sirius XM Progress 120.